Am I on? Yes, I am. I want to welcome each and every one of you here. I'm glad you're here. I first met Walt. Actually, I know his sons much better than I know him. I met his sons at ASI. They do all the IT stuff for me, and they are amazing sons. And so they told me about their father that had a booth downstairs doing the mustard seed health ministry. And so I went down there because I don't remember exactly why I had to go down there for ASI, but I did. And so I got to talk to Walt down there, and then I happened to be up in Portland one time, and he was speaking, and I really enjoyed his talk that night. So I thought, well, why don't we bring him to Grants Pass and see how it goes? So here we are. He has the ministry for the mustard seed, like I said. He also gives a lot of health talks in different factories and stuff in his area, and he is from Newport, Tennessee. Is that right? Tennessee? Tennessee. Newport, Tennessee. I wasn't sure because he flew out of, well, Knoxville is in Tennessee. So I want to tell you, this is Walt Cross, and I'm just very thankful he's here. He's going to do a number of talks. He's going to talk today, tomorrow during church, and then in the afternoon, and then on Sunday, he's going to do hands-on with teaching us how to do different things. So if we could bow our heads, I will pray for us. Father in heaven, thank you for your love to us. Thank you that we have ministries that we can bring to Grants Pass. Thank you that we're going to learn more about health this weekend. Open our hearts, open our minds, that we can learn what you would have us to learn today. In Jesus' name, amen. So, it's yours.
Good evening, y'all. If someone doesn't understand me, Don will translate for me. Well, it's good to be here. Tell me a little bit about y'all's church. What kind of health outreach do y'all do?
We did if you could put me back on again. We did the CHIP program here for about 12 years.
Okay.
We did New Start for a number of years. We do cooking classes.
Great.
We haven't done as much since of COVID. Mm-hmm. We've tried to start branching out now and doing more things. But we're pretty open to, doing cooking classes and things
Excellent.
Of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. So tonight I'd like to talk about two things. I think it's a little high maybe. I'd like to look at how to make and use herbal extracts, and then how to make infusions and decoctions, and that's teas. But let's first talk about herbal extracts. Has anyone ever made herbal extracts? Okay. What kind do you make? Okay. There's a difference in extracts and tinctures. Most folks will call them tinctures. And tinctures use alcohol. They'll use vodka. Where I'm from, they use moonshine. But they'll use both. Tinctures will actually pull more plant material out, more phytochemicals out of the plant material, and it will last longer. But the problem is, it's alcohol, and I just try to stay away from alcohol if I can stay away from alcohol. Extracts will use usually vegetable glycerin. Now, there is a way that you can do it if you have the equipment, that you can take and make a tincture and then distill it off, which will distill off the alcohol, and then you then stabilize it with an extract, with vegetable glycerin. Another way some people do it, they'll take the tincture and they'll put it in the glass, and then they'll pour in boiling water. Now, does that get all of the alcohol out? No. It gets most of it, but it doesn't get all of it out. One of the best folks in this is a company called Gaia Herbs. Now, I don't use Gaia Herbs because I realized what Gaia was, and I'm not into Gaia. But I went and I met the man before I realized what was going on. A very smart fella, very smart. And I asked him, I said, can I take a tincture and pour boiling water on it, and it plumb, y'all know what plumb is? It means total. Donna have to help me here. Does it totally get rid of the alcohol? And he said, no, it doesn't. You're going to still have alcohol in there, even though you pour boiling water on there. And that's something we've heard over the years, but he said, no, that's a myth. It gets rid of a lot, but not all of it. But let's talk about how to make extracts. So the benefits of liquid herbal extracts, the bioavailability. When you ingest a liquid extract, you're able to absorb and utilize the nutrients from the herb right away. Next, you're not having to wait until the capsule breaks down. You're going to get it. It's going to be a whole lot faster. The potency, liquid extracts preserve or lock in their nutrient potency much longer than capsules or bulk herbs, which are used for teas. Why do we use herbal extracts? Let's back up just a moment. Do y'all put food up here? Do folks put food up? Can it? Yeah. Do you can food here? Okay, what do you can? Fruit? Tomatoes. Okay, let's say tomatoes. It's my favorite sandwich, tomato sandwich. So let's say that that I pick my tomatoes in July, August. How long is that tomato going to last? Can I keep it for a year? No, if I just pluck it. No? So I have to can it. Right. Or green beans or corn or whatever you may put up. So you put it up so it will last longer. When I was a kid, we didn't have to worry about food. We didn't have a lot, but we didn't have to worry about food because my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, both grandmothers, they all put their food up back then. And so we had food that would last throughout, however long. And it could last years when you can some. Or they may have frozen it. Extracts are putting up your herbs. There's three major ways that you can use herbs. You can use the bulk herb. In the bulk herb, you can make teas. You can grind it up and put it in capsules. You can, which we'll talk about teas and fomentations in a few minutes. But when you have an herb like that, it's going to start losing potency. It's not going to go bad, but it's just not going to be as strong. The other benefit is, let's say, I fly out from Tennessee out here and I want to have something. If I was just using the bulk herb, I would either have to make a tea of it or take capsules. But if I do an extract, it's something I can put in my pocket. I can take it and use it right away. It's going to go in quickly. And where a capsule is going to lose its potency also, because it's just that dried herb, and it's just going to start losing its potency. An extract, what it does is it's like putting it up or like canning. And it's going to last longer, and you don't have to take the time of fixing the tea. There's another way you can do herbs. I call herbs on steroids, and that is extracts. Essential oils, essential oils. Who's ever used an essential oil? What did you use? Okay, what's your favorite? Peppermint. Okay, who's used peppermint essential oil? It takes the brand that you use. It would take 28 cups of peppermint tea to equal 1 drop of your essential oil. That's a mess of tea versus just 1 drop. Anybody tell me what the number 1 essential oil in the world is? Yes, ma'am. Lavender. That is the number 1 essential oil in the world. Essential oils are tremendous. They last longer and they're stronger. But who has the press or the distiller to make those? Most of us don't. That's kind of outside of our ability. So making an extract is something we can do in our kitchens that's reasonable and obtainable to do. So it's kind of a middle of the road. Capsules and tablets also have a propensity to lose their potency when exposed to the elements. Now, would anybody have a bottle of water I can get? Thank you. The capsules are 100% herb inside. Who's ever made capsule with a capsule machine? So you grind, what kind of capsules you make? Turmeric, okay. So you're going to put your powder in there, and it's 100% turmeric. But who has ever, thank you so much, who's ever made tablets? A tablet is usually like a charcoal tablet. A charcoal tablet is at least 50% or more binder. Something to hold it together. So you may have less than 50% activated charcoal in that tablet. Now, tablets are nice because you can suck on it for a sore throat or put it in the side of your gum if you have an infected tooth. But tablets, they're just not 100%. Shelf life, liquid extracts have a much longer shelf life, 1 to 2 years, due to the preservation methods which are used when making them. So it's going to last longer, not as long as a tincture. Many folks, both young and old, have challenges swallowing capsules or tablets. So the extract is easier for that little child or that person has a gag reflex issue, or as we get older, we may have a challenge swallowing something. Liquid extracts can be swallowed directly, or they can be placed in water, juice, or tea. I would say the number one extract that I sell is mullein. Does mullein grow out here? Mullein is the number one herb I know of for lungs. I mean, yes, you've got lungwort and you've got other things. Lobelia is good for the lungs. But mullein is the best thing I have found for the lungs. And I would say that's what I sell the most is mullein extract. Second two are pretty well tied because I sell them together a lot of times. And that is milk thistle and dandelion root. What do you think I sell that for? Liver. There's a lot of liver problems where I am. There's a lot of alcohol where I am. Another one that I sell a lot of is corn silk. Corn silk is the best herb for the kidneys. It's phenomenal. And then I add to that dandelion root. Now, yes, I use dandelion leaf, but I use dandelion leaf more for congestive heart failure, where you're dealing with congestion in the lungs, or you're having edema in the lower extremities. Vegetable glycerin extracts are an excellent alternative to alcohol-based extracts. They were discovered, this being vegetable glycerin, was discovered in 1789, so it's been around a while. And it came into use by herbalists around 1846. Vegetable glycerin is obtained by the hydrolysis of vegetable fats or fixed oils. Vegetable glycerin is a great solvent for extracting nutrients from plants without the use of alcohol. These extracts are known as glycerates and are an excellent choice for administering herbal support to people who are either sensitive to alcohol or just choose not to use it. Now, who is a person, can you think of a person that you would not want to use a tincture? Children. Alcoholics. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, a person, there it is. You know, a person who's an alcoholic, who's a teetotaler, they don't need that stuff. No. The anti-fermentation properties which are in glycerin are very effective in preserving the nutrients which are in herbal extracts. Glycerates have a shelf life of about 14 to 24 months versus alcohol extracts. What's an alcohol extract called? Tincture. Has a shelf life of 4 to 6 years. Now, who's ever used wild lettuce? Wild lettuce. What'd you use wild lettuce for? Yes, it's my favorite. It's excellent. I use also California poppy, and I use Jamaican dogwood. But wild lettuce is my favorite. It's tremendous. Dr. Mitchell, who was one of the co-founders of Bastyr University. Anybody heard of Bastyr? Not far from here. I was friends with Dr. Mitchell until he passed away. And I remember I called Mitchell one time. I said, Mitchell, Dr. Mitchell, I'm using wild lettuce. This is how I'm using it. Have you ever used it? He said, Walt, I've used it my whole career. I said, is there any contraindications with any herbs? I hadn't found any, but I wanted to find out because I was using it so much. And he said, no contraindication with any other herbs. You can use this thing for bone cancer. It's powerful. I said, what about with pharmaceuticals? None. Is there any problems with using it long term? Like, can you use echinacea long term? Can you use golden seal long term? No. 2 weeks. And then you need to stop 2 weeks. And then you come back, but you'll lose efficacy if you use it straight across. And plus with golden seal, if you use it usually around the 6-month mark, but I've seen it as early as a month and a half, you can start getting some depression issues, even though you're pulsing it where you're going 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. So be careful of some of the herbs, using them long term. But Mitchell said long-term utilization, there's no problem with efficacy or with damage to any organs or systems. And so wild lettuce is a great one. Here's the problem, though. You will not find a wild lettuce extract on the market, or I haven't. Why? You'll find tinctures, but you don't find extracts. Why is that? Extract doesn't pull it as much, doesn't pull the phytochemicals out as well as tinctures. Therefore, the companies who make it know that, and they don't even make the extract. Now, I have made wild lettuce extract, and it works good, but I've got an extra thing that I believe makes it work. What do you think it is? The whole bottom line of what I'm teaching this weekend is what? What? God. Yeah, so I asked God to bless that extract and make it like a tincture in powerfulness. Can God do that? Yeah, He can. And so, I don't want the alcohol, so I just ask Him to bless the extract. And He can do that, I believe. So let's see here. So how do you make extracts? What I'll do, now, do you ever try to do something and just make a terrible, awful mistake? So the first time I made an extract, what was I making? It was either wild lettuce or nettle. Who's ever used stinging nettle? Anybody use stinging nettle? What do you use it for? Pardon? Gout? Okay. Tell me how it works. You drink it as a tea? Okay. And so does it prevent or just when you have a flare-up? Okay, so it's more when there's an event. Okay, got it. It's considered possibly the most nutritious phytochemical in North America, herb in North America. Yeah, it's powerful. And it's all over the place. I went up to Alaska a couple of months ago, and this little old doctor, she looked like a 12-year-old. She was just a little thing. And she comes in for breakfast one morning. She came over to where we were staying. She's carrying in this pile of green stuff. And I said, what's that? She said, nettle. She was holding them. And I said, what's it for? She said, it's what we're eating for breakfast. I go to Wisconsin. I go to Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the ladies will cook it in soups and stews. People cook it like spinach. Nettle's tremendous for us. And who else? Someone back here used nettle. Have you used that? Pardon? Allergies. It's the best for our East Tennessee allergies. So it's good for allergies out here? Good. I use it probably most for women's hormones. It's tremendous for women's hormones, because one of the challenges with women's hormones is the blown adrenals, and stress blows the adrenals, and nettle's really good to build those adrenals back. And so I was either doing nettle or I was doing wild lettuce. And so I took a mason jar, take a wide mouth mason jar, not a narrow mouth. You want wide mouth. It was a little easier to work with. And so I was going to make it, and I thought, well, I'll just fill it plumb full. That didn't work too good. Fill it about half full, because you got to have room to put the glycerin in there, and it's going to swell as you put it in there. And so what you'll do, you'll make the glycerin, and you want at least 65% glycerin, because less than 65% glycerin, you can have pathogen growth. And you don't want pathogen growth. And so that's going to be 65% glycerin, 65, and so that's going to be what, 35% distilled water. Why do we want distilled water? It's going to be more pure. Yeah, we don't want anything, it's going to be pure. And so oil and water, do they mix well? No, so you got to mix it real good. It doesn't like mixing. So you mix it real good. And you make your solution. You can go 70-30. A lot of people go 70-30%. The higher you go on the glycerin, the sweeter it's going to be. And so some people like sweet, some people don't like sweet. But just don't go below 65. And so you're going to make your solution, and then what you'll do is you'll just pour it into your container. I use a mason jar. And you want to go about an inch higher than the plant material. Who's ever soaked beans overnight? Does it use up the water and you have to put more water in it sometimes? The same thing's true here. It's going to soak up that glycerin, and you're not going to have enough. And so you're going to have to keep adding until it finally nets out, stabilizes at 1 inch above. But you don't want to be closer than 1 inch from the top, because you need to shake it. You need to have room. And so if you start out about 50%, and different herbs are different, yes? It can, yes. Yes. Can nettles help with depression? Absolutely. Nettles is so packed full of nutrients. It's great in calcium. It's great in just so many different nutrients. Yes, it can help with depression. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. And so you're going to, depending on what plant material you're using, and when you put your plant material in there, like, let's say you're going to do, what's a root that y'all have around here that you would put? Ginger? Okay, ginger. So let's say you're going to make an extract of ginger. You're going to cut it up, kind of like, how herbs can be powdered or cut and sifted, where it's kind of cut up kind of fine, but it's not powdered. You want to cut it up kind of fine because you want surface area that can leach out into that glycerin. You don't want to just set that whole piece of ginger in there. You want to cut it up a bit. And so if you have any types of roots, like where we are, we have ginseng. Well, you would want to chop it up so you can get in there. And you don't have to. No. Pardon? Would you have to peel it? No. You don't want it dirty, but yes. Yes?
Did you chop the nettles?
No. Well, good point. If I'm buying it, I'm buying it cut and sifted. But if I'm using my own herb, then yes, I'll chop up the leaves. Yes, ma'am. Good question. So you want to be an inch above the herb with the glycerin, and you want to at least be an inch down from the top so you can shake it. And what you'll then do is twice a day you'll shake it. Oh, don't have to shake it long. Oh, 5 seconds is long enough. 5, 10 seconds, that's all you need. Now what I do, see if I can do it without messing up here. I'll use my water bottle as an example. I'll shake it up and I'll set it in the kitchen cupboard. You want it in the dark. And then that evening I'll shake it, make sure I don't mess up here, and I'll turn it upside down and I'll put it. Who's ever done peanut butter? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about with peanut butter? Yeah, so you turn it upside down, so when you're going to use it, you turn it up, and that oil's not at the top, it's at the bottom, and you're not dipping in oil. Same philosophy. So you do that for 30 days, 45 days. Usually folks do it for 30 days. And then what you'll do is you'll take and get you a kitchen strainer and pour the material into a kitchen strainer, which then runs into a container, and let it sit there a while. And then after it's dripped as much as it will drip, I'll take a bag, just a little bag, and I'll clip the end out of it. And then I'll put that plant material in there, and I'll squeeze it like you'd milk. Who's milked a cow?
You're not talking about a paper bag?
No, a plastic bag.
Okay.
Yes, plastic bag. And cut just the tip off. And so like you would, or who's done a cake decorate? More people done that than milked a cow. And so you squeeze it as much as you can. Again, and you get as much out as possible, and then you take that bag and throw it away with that plant material. It's done. And put it in compost. Yes, that's what I do with it. I put it in compost. And then you put it in your little jars. I'll put it like 1 ounce jars or whatever you may want to put it in. And you want to label your jar. You want to put the date on it. You want to put what the plant material is. And then you want to put what percent your glycerin and water is, so that you learn. And you say, I didn't care for that. That was a little too sweet for me. Or I think I could do a little sweeter. That way you know what you have. But let's say it's you're wanting something for a family member who's sick, and you don't have a month to wait. Well, let me back up a minute. Let me back up. Have you ever seen extracts that are... Yes, ma'am.
The question is, if you are putting it into a jar, does it need to be a dark jar?
It is best, yes, thank you. It's best to be in a dark jar. Have you ever seen double strength or extra strength? Okay, so here's how you make extra strength. You're going to do just the opposite. You're going to take that liquid that you just had. Now, the first time, we put the plant material in the jar. When you make extra strength, you're going to put the liquid in the jar. And you're going to be real, real careful. Because if you put too much plant material in there, you'll soak up that, and you've got too much plant material, and you don't have any liquid there because you just soaked it all up. So you'll add a little at a time to it, to where as it soaks up, you still want your liquid an inch above the plant material. You're going to use less this time, but you're going to just add it a little at a time, your plant material, and it soaks up. But you want your extract to be an inch above the new plant material. And you do the same thing for 30 days, shaking it twice a day. At the end of the month, you do the same thing. And instead of putting it in a jar, you're putting it in the jars this time. And that's going to make extra strength because you put new plant material in there that you're getting more of the phytochemicals out of the plant. Did that make sense? No. Okay. So what you did is, did it make sense what we did the first 30 days? Okay. So the second 30 days, what we're going to do is we're going to get that mason jar again, but we're going to put the liquid in first, what you just made. And then you're going to put whatever plant material, let's say mullein, you're going to put that material in there, but add slowly, because if you put too much, it'll soak up that liquid.
You mean over days?
No, it just over hours. over that one day. You'll just keep adding it, and it's going to soak up just like your beans soak up water. And it'll soak it up. And when you're going to see the plant material gets more and more saturated. And finally, it stops. Well, if you're still, you can add a little more until it stops an inch below what the top of the glycerin is, or the extract is. But let's say now, that's how you make extra strength. But let's say, yes, ma'am.
How long do you wait before you can use the extra strength?
Oh, same thing, another 30 days. 30 days, shaking it twice a day. But let's say that you don't have 30 days. Let's say you don't have 60 days. You got to, folks are sick and you need to make something up to protect your family. So what you can do, you do everything up to when you put it in the cabinet. So you're going to get your jar, put in your plant material, and then you're going to add your glycerin to where you're just an inch above the plant material where it stabilizes, and at least an inch down from the top. Now you're going to get a crock pot, and one that goes low, because you don't want to burn it. And some people will put a piece of something in the bottom, like a washcloth or something, and you can put several jars at once. And then you put it in that crock pot with water in it. And you're going to put it, at least 50% up on the mason jar with that water. And what you're going to do is you'll shake it twice a day. It's going to take 3 days. It's finished in 3 days. But you have to make sure that if you go to work early in the morning before the sun comes up, and you come home late at night before the sun, way after sun, that may have, your water might be gone, and you're going to burn your material. And so you want to make sure if you do this that you're able to keep adding water to it. Yes?
You've put it in the crock pot with no heat?
Well, yes, you turn it on low.
Okay.
And you're putting water in there, and it's just going to be at a low. And you're shaking it twice a day, but be careful that it doesn't run out of water, or it'll burn your extract. And it's done. If you wanted to make double strength, 3 more days, and you have double strength.
You put the temperature on warm or low?
Low as it'll go. You fill it up. Well, you don't want, your jar's probably not going to, but you don't want that jar starting to, get buoyant and flop over or something.
Do you generally use pint size or quart size jars?
I use quarts because I want to make as much as possible. You could do pints, absolutely. You could do gallons or half gallons, yes.
How long will this store?
So this is going to last around 2 years.
Awesome. And how do you store it?
You're going to leave it in those little jars. So you can get you can get 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 4 ounce bottles.
Dark bottles with a dropper?
Dropper or a screw top. You can fill it. You can put it in a spoon.
Okay. And refrigerate?
No, it doesn't have to be refrigerated.
Okay.
The glycerin will stabilize it. Yes, ma'am.
So after 2 years,
Uh-huh.
not use it anymore?
It's going to be like if you just had the bulk herb, it's just not going to be as strong. You're going to start losing strength.
What is the gingers?
What part?
Gingers.
What would you use ginger for?
Stomach.
Almost anything. It's good for so much. It's antiviral, antifungal. Antiviral, antibacterial. I don't think on the fungal, but I know it's antiviral and antibacterial. It's good for, like they said, the stomach issues. Yeah, ginger's good. Chinese medicine uses it a lot. They use ginger a whole lot. It's good. Yes, sir.
There's one more use.
What?
External use, you can use it for arthritis. But
Ginger?
To be strong, you go straight on skin.
Okay, he's saying we can use ginger on the skin for arthritis, for inflammation pain. Any other questions on extract? Yes, sir.
I've read things and seen things where they talk about if you extract something out of a plant, that sometimes the thing that helps that assimilate into your body is still left in what's thrown away, in essence. So how do you make sure that it still is able to assimilate into the body?
I don't know. I've never read that. I don't know. I know this is a pretty wide used tool, using extracts. I can't answer that one. I don't know. I've never read that. So I don't know. Any other questions?
Is fresh better than dried? Always go fresh, or it depends on,
You can use either one.
but is
If you use fresh, yes, you can use either one.
You don't see a difference newly harvested versus something that was stored?
Okay. I'll come back to you.
If you dry it, is it more potent?
Not to my knowledge. But let's go back to what she said a few minutes ago. Choosing the company you use, like essential oil. When you choose, or if we do it ourselves, if you wanted a good tomato sandwich, would you pick the tomato green? No, I wouldn't. Would you pick the tomato when you go and you get it and your hand just kind of squeezes into it like when you're ready to get the seeds out of it? No. So you want it when it's like vine ripe. For essential oils, you want essential oils where they're like lavender. You don't want lavender from the United States. You want lavender from France, where it grows the best. If you want kudzu, don't get it in China. Don't get it in Japan. Don't get it in Korea. Get it from Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina. That's where it grows the best in the world, literally.
Kudzu. It's
Kudzu.
a vine that grows in the south.
Oh, phenomenal.
It's like
Kudzu. Kudzu.
berries here. They have
Kudzu is amazing. You can eat it as food. You
We
can.
can't grow it here, is that what you're saying?
I doubt y'all can grow it here.
How do you spell it? K-U?
Kudzu. I can't spell.
Okay.
I took phonics and I speak Southern. It just don't go together. I spell Southern. Kudzu. Z-U, I think. I think it's Z-U. Let me tell you,
It's an
it's a very evasive. And what they brought it here for in the 1870s, the Japanese brought it here, and it was used for erosion control. But in the 19-teens and the 1920s, the government paid farmers to grow it for cattle. And so the plain people, Amish and Mennonites, they'll grow it like if it's, when you have dry seasons, you might only get one cut in the hay instead of 3. That kudzu is growing 30 to 50 feet deep. It's got plenty of water coming up. So I don't know if y'all wives are like this where I'm from, but where I'm from, wives will come into my store and they'll get a bottle of multivitamins and they'll pour them out. And then they'll get a bottle of kudzu capsules and they'll pour it in the multivitamin bottle. And then they take it home to their husbands and they say, "Here, honey, here's your multivitamins." Well, kudzu lowers the desire for alcohol 40 to 60%. Yeah, it's amazing. And the ladies tell me it works very well. So they just keep getting the kudzu and giving it to their husbands, giving them their multivitamin. They take the multivitamins. It's good for, it can help with smoking. Lobelia is better. Some women use kudzu for weight loss.
White moths?
Weight loss.
Oh, weight loss.
Don, you're going to have to help translate for me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be good. But so if you want to, we're not talking about kudzu, I guess. What we're doing is as the example, you want it to where it grows the best in the world. That's for extract, for essential oils. But for extracts, something that you're making, something you're growing where you are, you want to pick it where it is the most nutritious. And that's usually into the growing season. But you want to find, it's herb specific. And so you can do some digging and see where other companies who do extract, when they're harvesting it. Yes. Was there another question? Yes.
After you get the tincture all made, how do you know how much to take of it when you want to take some?
Okay, it's a good question. A lot of folks will take.
What's the question?
Oh, what's the question? How do you know how much to take? So I usually will do like 2 mLs, which is 2 dropperfuls, if you have the droppers. A lot of foods, people will do a teaspoon. And it's usually 1 to 3 times a day based on acuity, you know, how sick the person is. I get guys that come in with a low testosterone. And so they'll take sarsaparilla. First bottle, 2 dropperfuls, 2 mLs, 3 times a day. So that 1 ounce is going to last 5 days. So they kind of load themselves up. After that, then they can go to just once a day, 2 mLs. Well, they'll do it for a while. And then after a couple months, they quit buying it because their T's come up and they're doing well. But then after a couple months, guess who comes in? Their wife. Oh, Billy Bob, he's not getting as much work done around the house. That stuff worked. I was getting some stuff out of him. You know, he had more testosterone. He had more energy. But now he's starting to wane again because he quit taking the sarsaparilla. And so she comes in. Now she's buying it for him. So depending on what you're doing, but a lot of times, like hawthorn berry has a half-life of 4 hours. So if you're using it for a cardiac issue, then you'll need to give it 4 times a day, because that half-life is just 4 hours if you want to be therapeutic with it. So it depends on the herb, and that's just where you have to read and study and learn. But they're pretty, herbs are people will come in and they'll say, well, can I mix it with this, or can I take it with that? Herbs are, for the most part, pretty safe. They're most part. Pretty safe.
Okay.
You still want to do your due diligence. There's a great book. Who knows what the PDR is? Physician's Desk Reference. Y'all know what the PDR for medicine is? Well, they make one, PDR for herbal medicine. A great tool. Same book, but instead of pharmaceutical, it's herbs. And it will tell you how much to take. It will tell you what it's for. And so if you want science, it's a great source of science, knowing what the chemicals are, what the research is. So PDR, Physician's Desk Reference for Herbal Medicine. It's a very good tool. Any other questions about extracts? Yes, sir.
Natural remedies for earaches, kids with earaches.
Okay. Is it infected?
That's a good question. I don't
Okay.
know. How do you tell?
The first thing I would do, you can look in and see, is it all red and swollen? And I had a fella come one time, this poor fella, his ear was plumb swollen shut. Plumb swollen shut. But use an ear candle. Who's ever used an ear candle? Walter, sometimes, who works in healthcare? Sometimes we're so brainwashed. So Walter has he keeps getting ear infections. And his pediatrician says he needs to get tubes. So my mom sent me 4 ear candles. Walter was 3 years old. We were living in Virginia at the time. And how many of y'all burn things in patients' ears in healthcare? How many people in healthcare burn stuff in patients' ears? No. But in regular healthcare, you just don't burn things in patients' ears. And so I just didn't do anything. Well, you know how moms can nag and be persistent? Well, she kept calling me and, well, have you used the ear candles yet? No, Mom, we don't burn things in patients' ears. And I was working in regular healthcare. For 20 years I did that. And so finally, she was getting pretty heavy. And so I thought, I'll nip this in the bud. You can't lie. And so so the audiologist worked for me. The pediatrician was a friend, so I asked him, I said, here's what happened. Mom sent me these ear candles. Just tell me no, and I'll honestly tell her it's not safe. And you know what they said? We've heard about that. Let's do it. Oh, great. Again, this is how brainwashed I was. Do you know where we did it? I went to the pediatrician's office to do it. Crazy. So I go to the pediatrician's office. We burn the candles in his ear. Guess what? Walter's 36, 37 now? He never put the tubes in his ears. He took care of the problem. So ear candles can be beneficial. I had a Cocker Spaniel that she'd get, you know how Cockers, they'll get ears all clogged up, get infections, and got to take them to the vet. So I thought, well, let me try it on my dog. It worked on my boy. So this Cocker was real good. She'd go to sleep. She was a good dog. I'd catch her asleep. I'd go in there and I'd ear candle her and put all it works like an eductor and suck it right out, clean them ears right out, and I never had to take her to vet anymore for ear infections. It took care of it well. But yes.
I don't understand how it works. Are you dripping wax?
Oh no, ma'am. No, ma'am. You take this tube, and it came Asians and the American Indians have done this who knows how long. And they take like a material and it's saturated in beeswax, and they roll it up to a tube like big as my finger, and it's that long.
Cone shaped.
It's like a cone, like a straw. And then it tapers at the end so it can go in the ear. And you light the blunt end. Yeah, the back end, not the tapered end. And you light this end here. And I'll roll it a bit, maybe for 5 seconds, make sure it doesn't drip any. You can cut a hole in a plate or a pie tin, poke it in there. That's why I did it first. And then you stick it in the ear. You know, anatomically look down through there and see which way it goes. You know, the ear canal. And you can have the person move it around to where they hear it the most, and they may not hear it. There's times they may not hear it. And at first, until you do several ear candles. And you let it burn down. I don't use the plate anymore. And so I'll just but I'm also a firefighter. And so I'll take a cup and put water in it, and I'll lick my finger. And as it goes down, I'll pick it off and put it in there and pick it up. And you want to burn it about 2 inches from the end. Now, when you're finished, don't blow it out and put it in a trash can. You will burn your house down. It will keep, burning. And so you got to put it under water. You can open it up and see if it pulled anything out or whatever, but they work very well. Yes?
I just wanted a cautionary note. I have burned the inside of my ear.
You have what?
I have burned the inside of my ear because you can take it too far down.
Yes. The newer candles, most of them, have a little plastic thing in there now that prevent that from happening.
I think mine had a line on it.
Yeah, you don't want to go down too far.
It's good, more is better, that.
Yeah, no, don't go down too far and think I'm going to get my money's worth out. You might burn yourself. One morning, Mary Lou asked me, she says, can you do candles in my ear? And I said, sure. So we're laying in bed, and I'm doing a candle in her ears Sunday morning. I'm holding it there, and I fell asleep. She fell asleep, and I woke up when it was burning my finger. Fortunately, didn't catch the bed on fire. Can you see that? Fire chief burns his house down. And so that wasn't good. So candles are good. But what do I do when it's a bad infection, like the man who was plumb closed up? And so you can take I take a teaspoon, and I fill it about 70% full of olive oil. And then I put golden seal in there until I want the viscosity as thick as possible, that it still drips, but I don't want it real thick that it gums up in there. Probably a third to a half of a capsule worth. It's not a lot. And put it in there, stir it in there. You can warm it up, but I usually don't. And you can either take a medicine dropper and drop it in the ear, or take a butter knife and stick in it and drip it off with a butter knife. For an infant, I'll use 2 drops. For a child and up, I use 3 drops. And then rub it like you'd rub something down in a dog's ear. Rub it down in there good. And then you know those hot packs that guys use for hunting that you pop and you keep your hands warm? 8 hours, 10 hours, there are different ones. Put that on there and then put y'all know what boggins are? What do y'all, a boggin? You know, them little hats.
Oh.
And
Like a
what do they call them here, Dawn?
beanie.
Beanie. There you go, beanie. I was somewhere up, I think I was in Canada, and I called them a boggin, and they said, no, that's what we go down snow with. But you put that on there, and that will hold it on there. And every 2 hours, put more in there, rub it again, put that hot pack on there. It's amazing. It will take care of your infection. It took me several days with that man, about 3 days, because I would put it down in there and I'd rub it, and it just kept doing it. But what's the first thing you do? You pray, because it's not the garlic, it's not the peppermint, it's not the lavender, it's not the golden seal. It's God that does the healing. Yeah. And so you ask God to bless it. That's very important. Yes?
Did you say that, you said you use 1/3 to 1/2 of the capsule. Would that be of the golden seal?
Yes, ma'am.
And then how much of the oil?
I'll take a teaspoon and I'll fill it up about 70% full, 75% full. 75% full. But you just don't want it sloshing over the side. And so I'll mix it up there. That allows me to move it around to mix it. Yeah, and then you can put it in something else if you want to.
Use that on dogs?
Absolutely. You can use it on dogs also, sure. Dogs or cats, sure. Okay, any other questions before we go to teas?
Teas?
Yes.
Do you have a handout that gives us all this stuff and what it's good for?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I have started a book, but I went back to school, almost finished with school. And when I finish school, I'll finish the book. I'm about halfway finished on the book. All right. So let's look at teas. So teas are a way that you can use the plant material itself and use it for drinking. So how to make? I'm sorry. Why do I have poultices here? I grabbed the wrong one, y'all. Is it okay to talk about that? Okay, well, let's talk about poultices. Herbal poultices. Again, taking the plant material, making a poultice. Do we have anything biblical that it's okay to use poultices? What? Pardon?
The mud on the eyes.
Mud on the eyes. The fig poultice. Yeah. So let's look. Isaiah 38:21. For Isaiah has said, let them make a lump of figs and lay it as for a plaster upon the bowl, and he shall what? Recover. Yeah. What's it say here? And Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the bowl, and he recovered. So that we have a before, we have an order to do it. Now we've done it, and here's the outcomes. Yeah. Now figs are pretty cool. You can take either a fresh fig, like grew on my grandma's tree down in Meridian, Mississippi, and you can take it and you can just plumb cut it in half and set it on a boil or on cancer, or you can dig it out and make a paste, or you can take a dried fig, like dried fruit, and then you rehydrate it with hot water, cut it first. It cuts better when it's harder. And cut it first, rehydrate it, and then you can place it on whatever you want to place it on. There's a lot of phytonutrients in it. Neil Nedley talks about using figs as poultices. And here, as who said clay? Yeah. And he answered and said, a man that is called Jesus made clay and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. And so he put clay on his eyes. And how's this one? Job. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among ashes. Well, no, that's not really a charcoal poultice, but he did sit amongst ashes. Who's ever used charcoal poultice? Tremendous. Tremendous. So poultices can be used for boils. Y'all know what a boil is? A boil. Is that how y'all say it here? A boil? Okay. Burns, tumors, bites, stings, rashes, infections, drawing foreign objects out, colds, flus, pneumonia, wounds, ulcers, nerve and muscle pain, all kinds of things. What kind of things have y'all used poultices for?
Stings.
Pardon?
Stings and bites.
Stings and bites, yeah. Dawn.
My daughter Brittany used it for MRSA.
Oh, for MRSA. On a wound? What'd she use?
When she used to use the charcoal,
Charcoal poultice for MRSA. Worked?
she kept having it reoccur, and she used it and it went away.
It's amazing, isn't it? She used it for, her daughter had a wound that had MRSA in it, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and it took it out. Yeah. Anyone else use poultices?
Tooth infection.
What?
Tooth infection.
What'd you use?
Put it in a tea bag. Put it in.
Oh, yeah, you can use a tea bag, absolutely.
When I'm outside and I get stung, I just use mud.
Absolutely. That's right. Just take you some mud and put it on there. It works great for.
What, Rosie?
If I get stung by a wasp or a bee or anything.
Just mud?
Mud.
Just put mud on there.
Mud with water.
Yeah, it's usually pretty available.
Yes. And okay, well, let's go back to stinging nettle. In Asia, in China, Indonesia, Malaysia, if you have an asthmatic attack, they will strip you from the waist up. They'll take stinging nettle and they will whoop your chest and whoop your back. Stinging nettle.
They're gonna beat
Yes, they do. It stops the asthmatic attack. And then in China, they will dig a hole and they will bury you. And your head sticks out. If you went down in South America, like Venezuela, Colombia, they'll put mud all over you. Well, in China, they just bury you in a mud hole. And that mud then pulls out the stinging effect of the nettle. What else will pull the stinging effect of nettle? Pardon? Does jewel weed grow here? Jewel weed. Touch-me-nots. Do they grow here? Yeah. Okay, so touch-me-nots are jewel weed. That is the best thing I have found for poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac. But also it will work for the rash of stinging nettle. Someone had a question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one time I was hiking with a doctor out in the boonies, and someone got a bee sting, and of course there was nothing to use, and she actually got somebody's cigarette, took it apart, and made a poultice.
That's exactly right. We're going to talk about spit poultices. And spit poultices, where I'm from, the number one spit poultice when I was a kid was a tobacco poultice, spit poultice. And what you do, Don, they do that in West Virginia? Yeah. And so if a person got stung, they would just take a piece of chaw out and, put it on it. Or you could take a cigarette, open it up, put it in your hand, and spit in it, mix it up, and then put it on the sting. and that's called a spit poultice. Yeah, it's a great, it works. It does. Yes, sir.
What do you mix with your spit? I'm sorry.
Tobacco,
Okay,
like from a cigarette or from
yeah.
chalk, piece of chalk. Yes,
If
sir.
a dog gets bit by a snake, they'll head for a mud hole.
Ah. So if a dog gets bit by a snake, the dog goes for a mud hole and wallers in the mud. That makes sense. Sure. Anyone else? All right. Herbs which make good poultices. Who's done aloe vera topically? Put a piece of aloe vera on there. That's a great poultice. Burdock root. Does burdock grow here? It grows at home. Cabbage. Who's done a cabbage poultice? Yeah. We're going to do an example of cabbage poultice Sunday. What do you use a cabbage poultice for?
For ribs and, looks great.
For pain?
For pain,
Yes.
bruised ribs,
Absolutely.
bruises,
Yeah. Broken arm helps with the pain. Use it for a wound. Sprained ankle?
Oh, I wanted to mention, I went to Danny Vieira's
Yeah.
son's 10-day session, and they had a film on earthing. You mentioned dirt. Where people dig a hole, they have earth up to their neck, and it was one thing that helped them heal.
Wow. Yes, sir.
Aloe vera, we've used it anyway for sunburns. It's good
Oh.
for relief from the burn on sunburn.
Excellent for sunburns. Yes. Any kind of burn. Yeah, any kind of burn. I had this fella come in one time, and he was a maintenance fella. And so the furnace went out at this big building. And so he went up to try to figure out why it wasn't working, and it was driven by propane. So he goes up to the propane tank, turns the valve off. Then he goes into the furnace room, turns on the switch for the light. It didn't work. Well, that was no problem. So he pulls out his big lighter and squats down, and he goes click, and he goes, blew up. I'm surprised it didn't do more than what it did. The valve didn't turn off at the propane tank. He was burnt from here up. Burned his eyebrows, eyelashes, burned his hair off. His face was burnt. And then it looked like it had flame marks on it, kind of like a 1950 Chevy with painted flames on it. He had flame marks up his face too. And so he comes in, and we put him on the exam table, and that's what I used. I used aloe vera. And all I had at the time was aloe vera gel. And his face soaked up a quart of aloe vera gel, just plumb soaked it up. It didn't take no time. And my grandma taught me about making potato poultices. And so, potato poultices. And we'll talk about those on Sunday, how to make those and how to use them. And so we grated up potato and put it all over his face, and then poured in more aloe vera. And so you go until the material comes hot. Once the material comes hot, then you got to take it off and put more. Who's ever used, when you had sunburn, who's ever used vinegar in a washcloth? Anybody use vinegar in a washcloth? Yeah, you take a washcloth, put it on that sunburn. Because see, burns, textbook says burns will go for 12 hours. They'll keep burning for 12 hours. That's why at 1 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock at night, you're really cooking. Because you got burnt, in the afternoon. And so you take that washcloth and you sop it down in vinegar and squeeze it out and carefully put it on the area, and then that washcloth will come hot. You take it off, keep doing it until the washcloth does not get hot. And then you keep going to other places. Well, your vinegar is going to get hot. And so you use 2 bowls, stick one in the freezer and get you another one, and keep rotating until there's no hot. And then you put aloe vera on. And then you wait for about 30 minutes or an hour, and you're going to get hot again. And then you keep redoing it. And so what we did is we kept putting the aloe vera, plum means only, just aloe vera, and then potato and aloe vera, back and forth, back and forth. Except on his eyes, I cut a piece of aloe vera and made a poultice for his eyes. And the only thing you could see on his face was 2 holes for his nose.
Yeah, so you skinned one part of the aloe vera And lay the gel part right on.
So I took the inner, that inner, like flaying a fish. I took the inner part, I just plumb took it off all sides, and I just had the inner fillet and put it on his eyes. Yes. And we just kept going back and forth, and we're doing it. We did it for 5 hours. Taught his wife what to do. Sent him home, and the man had 0 scarring on his face. 0 scarring. Yes, sir.
Be really careful on burns with some products that say that they're aloe vera, but they have alcohol in them, and that will just burn.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or they might have citric acid as a preservative.
Pardon?
It might have citric acid as a preservative, and that will stain.
Yeah, that's where it's best if you can make your own. And so what we did is we had a whole bunch of aloe vera plants down in the greenhouse, and I had therapists from Venezuela and Colombia, and they knew how to make their own, and so they would make our aloe vera gel. Yeah, so you got cabbage can be used for a number of things. Calendula, who's ever used calendula? Or highfalutin people say calendula. Calendula. Who's ever used calendula? It's great topically for skin issues. It's also anti-cancer, and you can use it for cancer as a tea. It's very, very good. It's my favorite for thrush, for children, for babies, for adults and kids. I use Padiarco. It's a little stronger, but I use calendula for the little guys. Cayenne. Who's ever done a cayenne poultice? We'll talk about cayenne poultices on Sunday.
We have no classes every Sunday, but one person, she used that someone has arthritis,
Yes.
arthritis or swollen.
Yes.
So she suggests the oil, castor oil.
Yes.
Poultice, top of that, and then put the cayenne
Cayenne on
oil,
top?
apply it.
Sure.
Pain went away, right?
Yes. It works. It really does. Yes.
I was going to say, my stepmom used to have heart attacks pretty much every day. And cayenne, taken straight,
Yes.
will stop a heart attack.
Yes, it will. It sure will.
And it will also regulate your heartbeat. If your heart is beating too slow, it'll bring it up. If it's beating too fast, it'll bring it down.
That's good. I didn't know that.
70.
You say take it straight. Is it in water or?
You just take a little bit and wash it down with just water.
Like cayenne capsules.
Here's the thing. Yes, cayenne. Here's the thing about cayenne.
Don't use a capsule if you're having a heart attack because it takes too long for it.
Yeah, you want sublingual under the tongue.
It needs to-
Yes. I have guys that come in and they'll buy cayenne liquid extract, and they find it works better than nitroglycerin. Cayenne's a vasodilator, and it works just like the nitro. Yes.
Is there an essential oil for cayenne?
I've not seen.
I haven't seen one, no.
I
Have
don't think
you?
you need it. I mean, it's cayenne's just a powder, and it just.
I have
Yeah.
a friend that had some kind of oil. I thought it was.
It could be extract.
Maybe that's what it was, and she
Yeah.
carried it in her purse because of.
Probably extract. Yeah. Yes, sir.
A young man that I knew back in Chicago, and winters can get pretty cold there.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't have the best circulation in his feet. His feet would get very cold. He would put cayenne in the bottom of his shoes
That's right.
to keep his feet warm.
It's exactly right. It does.
Because it will really get hot.
It will. You can do it at night. You know, you think of the stories that our parents told us and our grandparents told us. You know, the kind of housing situations years ago. And it was cold. You know, heating rocks, heating bricks, and put them in the base of the bed to keep them warm at night. And people would put cayenne and put it in their socks, and that would keep them warm. Yeah.
He actually put it in his shoes
Yes.
rather
Yeah.
than his socks.
So cayenne, you have to be careful. Cayenne has it's measured in heating units, HUs. What you buy at the store might be 20,000, and if you go down to Pigeon Forge in Tennessee, down to the Pepper Palace, they've got one now that's 3.1 million. It's even hotter than the Carolina Reaper, which is 2.3, I believe. Yeah, million. And so you got to know what your heating units are, because that can make a big difference. Chamomile, chickweed, comfrey, dandelion, echinacea, elderberry, ginger, golden seal, jewelweed. There's the jewelweed, touch me not. Lavender, mullein. Mullein is, I use mullein for breast cancer. It's tremendous. When Mary Lou had breast cancer back, how long has it been now? 16 years, 17 years? It's been a while. She didn't like that one. It itched real bad. But mullein can be used for breast cancer. Nettle, oats. Who's done oat poultices? Mike, you done? What'd you use it for? Chicken pox. Okay. My grandmother, her father was a veterinarian, and she loved animals. And she always lived out in the country, and she'd go to the dump and bring back a dog that had mange or whatever, always taking care of dogs. And what she would do with a dog with mange is she would put, she'd grind up oatmeal and make a mush and put that all over the dog, and it would get rid of the mange. Yeah.
I used old car oil. Nothing. It does the same thing. It just prevents any air.
Where'd you learn that?
Louisiana.
That's fine. I started to say it, but I thought, these people are going to think I'm plumb crazy. But no, use motor oil. Use motor oil. Yeah. Use motor oil will work for mange. It'll work for, if you've got a skin disorder that will not clear up, the old mountain people just put, use motor oil on it. And I'm thinking, my goodness, that's got to be toxic. But yeah, that's southern. Yes?
With the oats, do you utilize, what do you use as the liquid besides water? Do you utilize?
You just take your oats, and did you blend them up? Yours, did you blend them up, or just take the oat? Yeah, and just heat it, just mix it with water. You don't have to heat it even.
You don't use an oil base?
No, just with water, and make a mush, and put that straight on.
It's like paste.
Yes?
I was wondering what the chickweed poultice was good for, because we have a whole bunch of it in our garden. It'd be nice to find a good use for a bad weed.
We'll look at that, I think, in a minute. So let's see. The number one use internally that folks do with chickweed, that I sell it for, is for weight loss. Because chickweed is great to take 3 caps 3 times a day, and it helps with appetite. It helps to depress appetite.
Make some for me.
Plantain, poke. Who knows what poke is? Poke doesn't grow here, does it? No?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, poke. Poke is poisonous. If you make a tea out of it, you dig it up. My garden grows poke the best of anything else. It just grows up naturally in there. And you take that poke root, about the size of your thumb, and you take a quart of water and bring it to a boil, and you boil it. You literally will boil that poke root for 20 minutes. Throw that tea away. It's poisonous. Get you another quart of water with that same piece of poke in there. Boil it for 20 minutes. Throw that away. It's poisonous. The third tea that you boil for 20 minutes, you can drink that. And then you take that poke root and you grate it like you grate cheese. And let's say if you got breast cancer, you can take or any kind of cancer, but I like using it for breast cancer. And you take that poke that you grated up, and then you can just use it straight like that. But I like making like a hamburger patty, and I'll take some psyllium powder, and I'll mix maybe a half a teaspoon in there. Make it, and if it's a little too dry, I'll add some of that poke tea, and I'll make it, and then you apply that to the area. It's great for breast cancer. But poke, you can drink it internally, but you got to be careful. Also, yes.
I don't know what poke is.
Poke is just a plant that grows in the south.
Oh.
Very powerful. It's a weed. Potato, red clover, St. John's wort, thyme, and yarrow. So, how's our time?
Probably we should be thinking about it.
Okay. So,
Can you go back on that one you just flashed out like that?
that one?
Oh, that's the
There you go.
Dr. Cross?
So when you look, yes, ma'am.
Did you talk about the plantain leaves?
The plantain leaves?
Did you talk about?
No.
Can you?
Yes, here you go. There's the spit ones. Here you go. So a plantain spit one. Plantain is very popular. It's one of the most popular is a plantain spit poultice. And so you take plantain, chew it up in your mouth.
What is plantain?
It's a plant.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Not plantain, the banana-looking thing.
It's not a banana.
No, it's plantain.
Okay.
It's oh, I won't go there. But anyway, so what you can
Do you have it
do.
around here, you guys?
Does it grow here?
That's a
Okay.
broadleaf and narrowleaf, and we have
Yes.
narrowleaf here mostly.
You can take the little seed part up, and you can use it like psyllium.
Okay.
So spider bites, bee or wasp stings, insect bites, animal bites, snake bites, tick bites. It's excellent for snake bites. That's what Bob Jorgensen used when he got bit by that copperhead, was plantain. Or what Vicky used on Bob. She alternated back and forth between a plantain poultice and a charcoal poultice. There's just Leaf of Life, that's one that comes, nobody here's from the Caribbean, it doesn't look like. That's an amazing plant down in the Caribbean. And there's hot and cold, you can make cold. It's just amazing what you can use. And so hopefully tonight is just whetting your appetite.
Yeah.
There's just so much to learn that God has given us that we can use in it's just growing out there. There's a family up in the mountains where I am, and I'm plumb up in the mountains. And don't have a lot of money, and they would send their kids out to pick dandelion and things to eat for salad. And that, I'm sure in West Virginia they did the same thing. And it's just what country people do. There's a good chance we're going to have to do that down the road.
Yes.
A real good chance. But you need to know what you're picking and eat. It could kill you. Yes.
The plantain, are you talking about, it's like a banana, but you're...
No, ma'am.
The leaves?
No, ma'am. That's a plantain, or at least the way I call it. It's a plant that grows. It's a green plant that grows on the ground, and that's the one that they say it does.
Is it a weed, you guys? Is it a weed?
Talk to Dawn.
It's a weed, yeah.
Dawn said it. She can show you what it looks like. Yes.
No, I was telling her to talk to me.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? So,
Talk to who?
Andy.
yes.
Andy Spring.
Oh, and miner's lettuce the same as wild lettuce?
I don't know. Is miner's lettuce the same as wild lettuce? No.
I don't think so.
Okay. They say no. I don't know miner's lettuce. Wild lettuce grows where I am. Pardon? Oh, no, it's not succulent. So it'd be a different one. So I get a call one time, and I'll finish with this story. I get a call. I'm down at Station 2, and we're dispatched out to assist EMS on a person who's stung by a bee, and he's having a reaction. Says that he's having difficulty breathing. So I start for the truck. Walter runs to his truck because he has a better med bag, and I get a phone call. So I get the phone call, and it's dispatch. And so I answer it, and I say, "Yes, Karen." And she says, "Where are you?" I said, "Station 2. She says, "I was hoping you were there." She said, "It's so-and-so." It was one of our firemen. And I knew that he was allergic to bees really bad. And she said, "He's not doing well. And EMS is at level 0 right now." That means they're not available. That means they're all busy on other calls. All the ambulances are busy. And so I told Walter, I yelled out, I said, it's so-and-so. He said, forget the truck, let's take my truck. His truck, we can go on a vehicle a whole lot faster than a fire truck, and especially up the mountain roads. So we get up there, and he was white as that sheet of paper. His blood pressure was like 70, 72 over like 40. Not good. His pulse was, I think it's 118 is what his pulse was. And he was either out or fighting. Out or fighting. And so I said to his wife, I said, I wish I had some activated charcoal. And so I had Walter monitoring his vitals. And so when Walter's on it, he's like a hunting dog on it. I mean, he just was paying attention to the guy's vitals. And so she says yes. She tells her brother to go get it. Well, he runs out to the garage and brings me charcoal briquettes. Not the one to use, y'all. Don't use that one. And she says, no, wrong one. It's in the bathroom. So she sends, he goes back in and gets them and comes out. And he had been stung by 2 ball-faced hornets. That's worse than a bee. He was stung right here, and he was stung right here. And so I went and put the charcoal in my hand, and someone had a water bottle, and I poured it in my hand. I mixed it up like this, and applied it here, within 2 minutes. Skin color was back. His pulse was significantly improved. He was alert and oriented. His blood pressure significantly improved. BP came down within 2 minutes. EMS says 15 minutes out. So he thinks he's fine now. He don't need to go to the hospital or nothing. But they finally got there, and he ended up going. And I told the medic what I'd done. Well, halfway there, they're at Wilton Springs, and halfway there, the medic goes to him. He says, I'm not going to get in trouble by the ER doc with that nasty stuff on there. I'm going to wash it off. He told me within 1 minute his lips went numb, and that's the last thing he remembers. So it worked while on him, but if you take it off, you might have problems again. But that can be life-saving. That can be life-saving. There's so many stories. Brown recluse. My daughter got bit by a brown recluse spider. She has no scar at all. None. And it totally healed it. Yes, sir?
We mentioned charcoal poultice. When I grew up, my mom would mix half flaxseed with charcoal.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I'm going to talk about that Sunday. Flaxseed is an excellent tool to use. I use psyllium today. I hired a therapist out of Switzerland, and he taught me to use psyllium powder. It works even better than the flaxseed. It's just not as messy. It congeals better. But yes, you can use flaxseed. You can use ground up oatmeal. You can just use charcoal and water. But here's the problem. A poultice has to be moist to draw. Whatever kind of poultice you're making. And so I put saran wrap over top of it to make it stay moist. But if your charcoal poultice is just water and charcoal, a couple problems. One, it's going to dry, and it's going to be a real mess with all that powder, going all over. And so the psyllium holds it the best. But that's what we use for years, and that may be what we'll have to use Sunday, is just the flaxseed. Wait. Can you bring some? Great. If you can bring, I don't need much. If you can bring me, can you bring?
It's something I use for bowels.
Okay, is it psyllium whole or psyllium powder?
It's
probably
in between. It's in between.
Do you have a coffee grinder?
Do I have what?
A coffee grinder?
Oh yeah.
Can you grind it plum?
I will.
Powder?
Yep.
And then I need about 1/4 of a cup.
Okay.
Perfect.
No problem.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions before we finish? Well, tomorrow we're going to talk about what we've been doing over the last 160 years. And then tomorrow afternoon we're going to talk cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Is that it? Okay, I think that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, or whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to talk with y'all. And then Sunday, we're going to talk about how do you make Old Mountain Remedies. And then that man has the job. Would anybody like to guess what my...
Man.
Raise your hand. Yeah. Raise your hand. My number one stressor is being late to an airport. So that man's going to take care of me because I fly out Sunday. So I'll be here until he says, we got to go. Yes?
Do you have a good book you recommend for beginners?
Yes, I do. There's a book called Natural Remedies Encyclopedia. It was written by Vance Farrell and a very good friend of mine, Harold Cherney. Dr. Harold Cherney, who was at Eden Valley for many years. Before that, he was in Chattanooga. He worked at Wildwood for a while. Harold Cherney. First person was Vance Farrell. And Vance Farrell is the one that did the majority of that work. And Vance Farrell. And Cherney kind of, he helped him with it. But Farrell's really who wrote the book. That's a good one. And then Agatha Thrash did one right before she passed away. And it was actually published after she died. And get the last book that Agatha Thrash did. That's a good one. Natural Remedies Encyclopedia. Natural Remedies Encyclopedia. I don't remember the name of it. Sunday, I brought a couple of DVD sets I did. This and some of those, and I'll show you those on Sunday. But there's so many books out there on herbs. There really are. And y'all are out. You have better support here than we do at home. Though we are in Appalachia where the Cherokee are. And so our Appalachian ladies and those folks are really good. But here in Oregon, and there's a place here in Oregon called Mountain Rose, which is just south of Portland. And Mountain Rose is an excellent resource. It's good quality, and they have just excellent resources for you out here. Yeah.
You mean as a store to buy things that you're referring to?
They just have all kinds of stuff there.
That you can buy?
Yeah, you can buy, yes. Mountain Rose. And their quality is excellent. They may run out sometimes because you don't manufacture herbs. And when it's gone for the year. You got to wait till it grows next year. Any other questions before we finish tonight?
Has anybody heard of Pacific Botanicals that's here or used them? Do you know?
I've heard of them, yes. I've used them.
They're right here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're right here? Where? Whereabouts?
Just out past the Grange.
Okay, I've used them.
Yeah.
Fish hatchery.
Fish hatchery, yeah.
Fish
Okay.
hatchery.
You
I
can
sure
just
have used
go
them years
there
ago.
Pacific Botanicals. And you can call ahead and you have to get a pound of each herb that you get. You have to get a pound's worth. And that's where the herb shop gets a lot of their.
And usually those places have books that you can buy. Now, where do you learn medical missionary stuff?
From Fish Hatchery? Yeah.
The best place to learn medical missionary. The first one is the Bible. Read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I was on the plane today flying from Dallas to, yes, it was Dallas to Phoenix. And had an amazing talk with this young girl who's a nutritionist and also she's getting a degree in Bible. Not to be a preacher, but just to be able to teach the Bible to people. And, we had a great discussion. And we were talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, about Jesus healing. And you can learn a lot right there. And then you can learn from some books we'll talk about tomorrow morning called Ministry of Healing, Mind, Character, and Personality. There's some great books there that you can learn from. And that will teach you the foundation, what's real. Then from that, you can then study thrash. You can study Nedley, study study John Harvey Kellogg. And then I read a lot from Harvard. I do even more from Mayo. I was at Mayo with Denzel not long ago. And Denzel took me by their new lifestyle research place there in Rochester at Mayo Clinic. And Mayo has some really good information. It's amazing. They talk about nutrition. They talk about fresh air. They talk about water. They talk about sleep. And amazing research comes out of Mayo. I look at a lot at Cleveland Clinic. But the foundation to learn whether it is, are you going to use it or not, the Bible and those other books I was speaking are great resources to get that foundation. Because, you know, I was talking to that girl today, and I was telling her about a lady who was possessed that came to me, and she says, how did she get possessed? And I said, oh, it's because she went to a health food store, and a friend of hers was pregnant, and she heard if you buy this certain thing, and I won't say because I don't want people getting into it, if you buy this certain thing, you can take it, and you can tell if it's a boy or a girl. Boom. She got into it, and when she came to see me, she was literally possessed. She said she had demons. They would pick her up at night out of bed and throw her against the wall, and her husband validated, and they did it. It was terrible. But you can get into it real easy by just doing the wrong thing, kind of like the Ouija board. Yes.
No, I'm praying.
You want me? Okay. You want me to pray? Okay. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, there's just so much to share. It's so hard to stop. Lord, we thank you for your love and your care. We thank you for interest that's here tonight, that wants to learn. And Lord, I ask that you continue to nurture that hankering, that desire to learn about your simple remedies. Lord, we ask as we head home, send your angels before us, keep us safe. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. You're welcome.